Hi, Alvin here, and thanks for tuning in to episode 8 of the 3-Minute Health Tip. Now, in this episode, I'm going to be discussing overuse injuries. And when it comes to overuse injuries, I know that a lot of people come in to see me and they're thinking, well, what if this shoulder pain, for example, has nothing to do with an emotional conflict or a relationship issue? What if it's just because I overuse it? You know, I work 8 hours a day hammering nails on wood. What if that's the reason for my shoulder pain? That is true, that there is the potential that your injury is due to an overuse, but there's really two things that you're going to have to understand in order to differentiate whether the shoulder pain is from an overuse injury or whether it's from a conflict shock relating to a relationship guilt. The one thing I tell people is an overuse injury occurs when there is a mechanism of injury. There has to be a moment that, you're hammering those nails on wood that you realize, I remember, hitting something and pulling something or hearing a tear or feeling a tear. And after that feeling for the rest of the day, my shoulder didn't feel right. Or I remember hammering something and I thought it was going to go in smoothly and it didn't. And I remember feeling something weird in my shoulder. A lot of times when people wake up, though, the next morning and their shoulder hurts, most people cannot recall a specific mechanism of injury. And so if there was no mechanism of injury, we're looking at an emotional conflict that triggered that pain, not an overuse. Now, the other thing that people need to determine to figure out whether it's an overuse injury or a conflict shock is the fact that there's an adaptability principle. If you have been working as a construction worker, hammering nails on wood for 8 hours a day for 10 years, then it's going to be very unlikely that your shoulder pain is because of that, unless something new or something different changed that your body had to adapt to after doing it for 10 years. Most people, I tell them that if you start working or as a construction worker hammering nails on wood, it's the first week or the first month on the job when your body's not used to it or it hasn't adapted to that mechanism that the shoulder starts to hurt. After 10 years, 5 years, 20 years of doing the same thing over and over again, you would have stronger muscles than the average person that's never hammered nails on wood. So the only reason that you can have an overuse injury after 10 years is if you change something. Instead of nails on wood, you're now hammering nails on metal. And that change requires your body and your muscles to adapt to that new way of doing the work, which is going to create potentially an overuse in the shoulder. If the answer to those two questions of whether there's a mechanism of injury or whether there's an adaptability process that you have to go through that caused your pain is no. If the answer is no, none of those things apply, then we're looking for an emotional conflict that triggered the symptoms. And if it's a shoulder pain, we're looking at a relationship issue. So I hope that serves you in being able to help you identify whether your injury, whether it's the shoulder or the low back, is due to an overuse. Was there a mechanism of injury, or was there a new change in how you did something that required adaptability to take place? If not, it's an emotional conflict shock.